Alright guys, it's Mo on the go with another show. I haven't forgotten you. Hello. Hello there. You doing good? Today we're talking love. Alright. This is a Kikuyu song. It's all about love. It's all about love. It's a Kikuyu African song. A Kikuyu song. Alright. Proving to you that Africans are romantics. Alright. Goroya kwega tuma tuma, goroya kwega iwawega kaiwawega, mitondo ambohono kia. This song really is a Christian song, but you know, when it plays in the club, everybody owns it because it's all about, it talks about, you know, my heart is happy because of the way I feel about love. Yeah? My heart is happy. My heart is pumping hard. Ooh, my heart is feeling good. It's feeling good. All right. Yeah. Because of love. Alright, so guys, you know, enjoy the music, enjoy the music. How have you been? Let's love one another. Kwendo, ona wene wende te kwendo, ona nini nini te kwendo, wendo we sama kwe okay. Alright guys, how is your heart doing? Is your heart beating hard because of love? Eh? Is your heart beating hard because of love? This song is a Kikuyu song and it's played in the clubs. Oh, it reminds me of home, you know? Whenever you're feeling down, you just have to listen to African music, Kenyan music, Kikuyu music, your language music. Music from Africa is always full of life. Oh, it's so much fun. Hey! Alright, but anyway, back to seriousness. So, where have I been? Where have I been? So much going on, guys. Unfortunately, I couldn't really talk to you too much because my life was a little bit disrupted a little bit. You know how life is there. I would have loved to talk to you over the weekend, but here I am. I'm still here. What do you think of my army cap? What do you think about it? And I'm in green today. Today is a day of peace. I want peace. I just want peace and love, unity, and I am ready to go for war. The topic of today is be a person of your word. Be a person of your word. You know, make serious promises. Make serious promises. And most of all, in a marital union. Very, very important. Very important. So I want to talk to you about the promise I made to my husband, okay? To be with him forever and ever until death do us part. And why did I choose to marriage over single life? Well, you know, as I told you before, and I'm sure many of you who know me very well know that I've been single for a very long time. I was single for like over 20 years before I got married. And I talk about it a lot because it was something that I had put on the back shelf, on the back burner, and I thought to myself, I'll never get married. You know, who's going to want to marry me? You know, I had really, it's nothing to do with self-esteem. It was something to do with what I thought that the society had already prescribed for me as a single mom. And also the fact that I really had very low levels of trust. First of all, for myself, and second of all, for others, you know, generally. When I talk about trust for myself, my question was I able to commit to a long-term relationship and be satisfied and comfortable in that? Or was I already so used to my single life that I would want to one day revert back to my single life and being like in charge of my own destiny and asking myself questions and answering them myself? Maybe consulting my son, who had very little power in what I was going to do, very little influence in what I was going to eventually decide. So I had to have a conversation with myself. I had to take myself onto a meeting and ask myself, are you ready? Are you ready to commit? Are you ready for commitment? I have parents right now who are celebrating, who just celebrated 55 years of marriage, okay? And so I grew up in this union where it wasn't just a marriage, it was a relationship where I saw demonstrated love, where I saw sacrificial love, where I saw, what do we say, where I saw joy in service to one another. And also where I saw my parents struggle through challenges, sometimes, you know, with us acting up, the three of us, sometimes one of us would act up, don't guess who, you know, but not really me, not really me. One of us might decide to act up, or one of us maybe decides that they're over demanding. And I saw how they managed it together. And I asked myself, why is it that they, you know, what is it that keeps them going? Can I really achieve this? Because on the other hand, I also watched some of their friends break up in their unions. I also saw quite a few of marriages all, you know, growing up, not working out. Over my period, it was a time when career was put ahead of relationships and ahead of family and husband and spouse things, you know. So when I was going to school during my period, it was all about, you know, get a degree, finish your degree, get a job, be self-sufficient. And the mothers who were raising us really wanted that for us. And the parents who raised us really did not prioritize marriage too much for some of us girls, because for many of the women, including my own mother, who is very intelligent, many people did not have an opportunity to pursue their education in Africa, especially women. And therefore, when women got girls, when they gave birth to girls, the women of the 60s, when they gave back to 60s, 70s, when they gave back to girls, they made sure that the girls were not going to be like denied the opportunity to go to school due to family obligations. So I think there was very little pressure from my parents growing up to actually stick in a relationship and get married. Well, they would have liked it for me, but it wasn't really like the most priority. And then when I got a baby, you know, during that period, having a baby was literally taboo out of marriage. Unfortunately for me, what was even more taboo though was not having the baby once I found myself pregnant. And that is something that I really thank my father for, because my father actually took my mother aside. My mom told me that my father took my mother aside when I was going to university abroad, and told her to tell me before I left the country that his children would not be aborted in case I found myself in a situation where I was pregnant. And by the way, I was going away when I was a virgin. I'd never known a man for 20 whatever years of my life before I left. That if in case I found myself pregnant, I should just go ahead and have the child, because in his home, no child belonging to his bloodline should be removed, should be aborted, because he was a very strong Christian. So when I found myself pregnant in the US, I discovered, I didn't find myself pregnant, okay? When I had unprotected sex and then discovered that I was pregnant, there was no two ways about it. There was no looking back. Although I had a lot of friends who were advising me one way or the other, there was really no looking back, because I knew that if I even tried to abort this child, first of all, I'll have to live with my own guilt, and second of all, I'll have to live with my father's admonition. My father's admonition, even if he didn't know about it, somehow I actually thought he might find out about it. Yeah, eventually. Apologies for that, my camera was falling. I told you, me and technology. I think my camera is fainting, listening to these stories of mine. Huh? My camera is fainting, so I'm trying a new stand and it's just not working. So basically, let's go back to the story. So basically, when I found myself pregnant, I decided just to go ahead and have the baby. And I'll do another vlog about that one, because it's such a long story. I have to tell it in bits. It's not. I don't want it to take over this vlog. We're talking about why I decided to get married. When I was very young, I knew that I was ready to be a mother, and I wanted to be a mother very early in my life. I'm one of those young people who would have liked to have a baby even at the age of 19. Literally 18, 19, I was ready to be a mother. Some of us are like that. Some of us are just like that. And I knew I was ready to be a mother. So even when I got pregnant and I found out I was pregnant at 25, I was okay with it. I was really pretty okay with it, you know, because I knew I wanted to be a mom one day. And so I'm not judging anyone. I'm just telling my own story. So that's the situation. So when I finally went back to Kenya, living in America, when I went back to Kenya with my child, let's just say the environment was rather hostile towards single parents, and single moms with baby boys were even more, unwanted and undesirable in the society, basically because of the laws of inheritance that favor boys, and the fact that many men probably would have felt like a mother might prioritize their son's feelings and put a lot of attention on their boy more than them. So it's, a lot of different things. So really I put it in the back burner. So what I did is I just started dating. Dating was okay. Dating was all right. Like I told you before, me, I used to go out, have fun. Yes, I would have a guy in my life. When you see a single mom, doesn't mean that she doesn't have a man in her life. Yes, I had a man in my life. I still had needs. Yes, I was a Christian, but I was also realistic. I had my needs, and my needs had to be met. Eh? My physical needs for intimacy and many other things, and even companionship and talking. And then one day, when my son was getting ready now to go to university, many years later, once I had already built my career and now he was going to university, I realized that my whole life is centered around that boy and his friends and my friends and things like that. And I started asking myself, is this it? Is this all? Maybe now, the environment has kind of changed. The culture is much more accepting. People are, even globally, the attitudes towards single mothers is changing. And maybe I might just stand a chance in love. Why don't I try, a long-term relationship? And I won't lie and say that this is the first time I tried it, but this is the time I really seriously considered marriage. And basically, it was rubber stamped. My thoughts were rubber stamped when once I took my parents on their, I don't know how many anniversary out, because they really celebrate the anniversary. And my father asked me during that dinner, when I took them for the anniversary dinner, he asked me, well, what about you, Mo? What about you? What do you think about marriage? And I said to him, what do you mean, what do I think about it, Dad? So finally, they decided to confront me about this, I was in my 40s, and they decided to confront me about it. And I said to myself, it really came as a shock. Because like I told you, my father has never even talked to me about it. My mother's never really bothered too much about it. Once in a while, they'll talk about it, but I think they kind of knew my stance, to some extent. So this first time, my dad just said, what about you? And I said, well, Dad, you see, well, I didn't really think I had the power to make a decision about being married or not. And in the end, he just told me very quietly, like matter-of-factly, he said, well, you know what? You just don't make it a priority for your life. You don't make it a priority. That's the reason why you're not married. It's not priority for you. You should know how mad I was. I was like, what do you mean? It's not priority for me. Dad, marriage is priority for me. But you see, as a woman, I had taken this stance that a man has to make a decision whether or not I will be married or not. I kind of thought to myself, well, this is a man's prerogative. If men had asked me to marry them, but the kinds of men who had asked me to marry them are not the kinds of men I wanted to marry. So I told my dad, well, you know what? I can't just go and approach a man and say, I like you, so can we get married? But when I went back home, I really thought about it. So after really being taken aback by this, I thought about it and I said to myself, okay, let's see whether I can challenge Dad's opinions about this. Let's see whether really, maybe he's right. They say that our parent is our first God. So I said to myself, maybe he knows something that I don't know. And for him to actually say something about it means maybe he's looking at my life and he's seeing that I could be potentially a good wife, or maybe I would be happier in a reunion, or maybe I had given up. Maybe he looked at me and from a man's perspective and said, look at this lady. Here's my beautiful daughter. And she looks like she's given up on life. What happened? What happened to my daughter? Why should I be celebrating anniversaries and she taking us out for anniversary dinners and she herself hasn't thought about getting married? So I went home and I thought about it. I said, okay, then I'm going to start prioritizing it. Okay, I'm going to start prioritizing it. Therefore, for every job that I apply for every consultancy contract that I look for, I'm going to spend equal amounts of time in looking after myself, toning up, going to the gym, bringing myself back to being who I am, investing in myself. I'm going to think about every time I get a contract, I will start shopping for myself, start looking nice, start doing my hair, try to shed off a couple of years from my life, even in terms of my mind. And I thought to myself, why I'm going to start working on myself internally so that I ready myself for a partner. Because the last thing I wanted was to just delve into a partnership that was going to go nowhere, like the ones I had had before, that was going to go nowhere. I wanted to make sure that the next person that I met also shared my views and perspectives and wanted the same as I wanted. So I wasn't going to be wasting my time with people who were time wasters. I was going to deliberately seek a partner who was seeking to be partnered. Deliberately seek a partner who had already done his thing, maybe played the field or lived his life, and decided, you know what, it's time to settle down. This is what I want, and no qualms about it. This is what I want. So I think my father's words gave me a lot of courage, as a woman, to step out and step in to the game. So, to cut a long story short, anyway, I decided, to use my own avenues to identify someone. So I won't go into how we met, how my husband and I met, but all I can tell you is that, believe me, I had no holds barred, I didn't mind how I met him. Whether I was going to meet him in a grocery store, whether I was going to meet him online, whether I was going to meet him in church, where I was going to meet him through someone, I didn't really care, because I really believed that my Creator would use any platform in this world, any avenue, to do his thing in my life. And I wasn't going to limit my Creator and tell my Creator, no, I want to meet my husband in church only, or I only want to meet him at work, or I only want to meet him when I travel, or he only has to be like this and that. The only thing I knew for sure is that I wanted a man who was God-fearing, at least somebody who had a Creator above him, somebody who believed in God, at least believed in God, not necessarily somebody who was a staunch, Christian enthusiast, not necessarily, but somebody at least who felt that they had some power over their life apart from themselves, and they had an accountability framework in their life. I also wanted somebody who wanted a strong woman, and somebody who was exposed just like I am, because as you see, I'm quite opinionated, and not just opinionated in a negative way, but I like to speak, I like intellectual talk, I also like to have fun, I also don't like to judge, I don't like to be judged. Sometimes I want to dress down, sometimes I want to dress up, sometimes I do cook. I am actually a typical woman. I love to cook and look after home and things like that. So I didn't want somebody who's going to come and judge me and expect me to be a certain way. I just wanted somebody who just accept me as I was. I didn't want somebody who would think I was too old to get married. I wanted somebody who had exposure and knew that a woman at any age could be attractive and look beautiful and be married. And somebody also who loved other people. It was very important for me. Okay, so that was basically it. And so let me just tell you the reasons why I finally decided to accept and to agree with my father, and why I decided to choose marriage over single life. Okay, now, 5 reasons why. The first reason is companionship. At that time, my son was getting ready to go to university, and I saw that my life was going to be kind of empty and lonely, and the companionship that I had through him and his friends, or even through the fact that I had to employ people in the home to look after our home, and primarily because of him, I started to reason that I wouldn't really need so many people around my life, and I started to feel isolated, and I wanted somebody who would be there, okay, a companion. So the fear of getting older and being alone with no companion really affected me. And I looked at my parents, and I looked at their friends, and I saw how they comforted each other, how they had each other to bounce off ideas and things like that. That's number 1, companionship. The second one is physical intimacy. And what I wanted somebody who would be consistent, somebody who was going to be there. I didn't want to have to change partners when it comes to physical intimacy. That's sex, for example. Hugging me, sex with me, all that. I thought to myself that was real, intimacy. And intimacy goes beyond sex. It goes towards even things like cooking a meal together, enjoying that period together, watching a movie together, entertainment, also going through challenges of life together, sadness, joy, celebrating positive things, celebrating, or should I say, comforting each other, sickness, things like that. That's what I'm talking about. Somebody who will really get to know me, who will know my physical state, who will know my emotional state, who will know my health state, who will, somebody I could share with at that level, and not have to share with someone else, just one person. Okay. Now, the other one was that I wanted to make sure that I could build another person and also learn from another person, learn from my partner. So I really wanted a really intelligent partner. I wanted somebody who was going to bring something into my life, some intelligence into my life, you know. And I wanted to learn from them. So I wanted to learn from them, and I also wanted to build them up because I thought I had so much to give, so much to share, so much fun time, so many funny things, so many interesting things, politics, you know. I wanted to discuss politics, I wanted to discuss life matters, I wanted to discuss child raising, I wanted to discuss living in different countries, attitudes, cultures. I just wanted someone to discuss things with, someone to go and do things with. So that's what I wanted. So I wanted someone who would build my mind as well, and somebody whose mind I would build. Okay, so that's number, I think, 4. So one is companionship, the second one is physical intimacy, the third one is someone to talk and share things with, the fourth one is not wanting to age alone, and the fifth one is desiring to learn and build from one another, you know. And you know, as a woman, you know, it's you can have girlfriends. And yes, I used to build myself with girlfriends and things like that, spending time with my girls, and I still do spend time with my girlfriends, but not as much as I would have loved to. But I also wanted, this is a man's world, understanding that really the world is so male dominated that I needed to have the perspective of a male in my life, you know, apart from my father, my brother, my male friends. I wanted a man, I wanted to see a man go through life, and I wanted to see how he would navigate, you know, the world, and how the world is navigated by men, you know. So apologies for that. That's a phone call. I need to switch off that. So I wanted to see, you know, how life is navigated by, you know, men and things like that, and to try to see whether I could, you know, learn from men, you know, learn, and also maybe, you know, go into their world a little bit, you know, go into their world a little bit. Apologies for that. That was a phone call. Okay. So anyway, so basically it's a man's world, and I wanted to be with a man who could be with me and teach me a lot of things. Okay, so like I said, I like to learn, and I also wanted to teach. Should I say to teach or to build up? To build up, because I also thought that a lot of people tell me that I'm a positive influence in their life, males and females, and whenever I was in a relationship, let's say with a man who wasn't my husband then, I would see that his life would progress and his life would be built up by me. Really, yes, I would have a lot of influence in their life. Very many, you know, people whose lives I have built. I said to myself, why don't I build my own man? Let me build my own man, you know. Why should I be building men for other people? Let me build a man for me, you know. So I wanted that, and I also wanted to be built by a man. So next, maybe I'll be talking about, you know, have I achieved those 5 things? Do I think that marriage has fulfilled those 5 things, you know, that I was hoping to achieve, you know? And yeah, what do you think about that, guys? Do you have any, I know this is a rather long vlog. What are your views about it? What are your views about, you know, marriage? What are your views about, you know, the reasons why, the 5 reasons why I chose marriage over single life, for example? Do you think I made the right decision? Is marriage for you? Is marriage not for you? If it is for you, what do you fear about marriage, or what are your views about marriage? And how do you intend to find a partner if maybe you already think that you might be over the age of the regular married person? So on that note, guys, this is a rather long vlog. I can see that, and I'm not very good at editing, as you know. So you're going to hear much of it. So let's talk about love. Let's talk about love. Have a nice week and see you soon. Much love you. Love, like, and share. And guys, you know, come on and let's talk. Let's talk love. Let's talk. Yeah, let's talk. Bye-bye. Toodoo.